I found myself in Hindley Street the other day just staring at the old West's Theatre. Glad that it's still there, but sad that so many other wonderful old theatres aren't. West's was built in the Art Deco style in 1939 and it was a real stunner. This theatre replaced the old West's Olympia that was built here in 1908. But before that, there was a building called Cyclorama, and inside Cyclorama was something quite radical and revolutionary for the time. What's thought to have been Australia's first ice skating rink. Just up from the theatre on the Lee Street corner is Robert Hannaford's wonderful statue of comedian Roy Moe-Reen. He was an absolute star in the 30s and 40s and performed at West's Theatre just after it opened. Now, it's home to the Adelaide Symphony Orchestra, and a quick look inside gives a bit of an idea of how it must have been back in the days when a night at the Flicks was glamorous and exciting. One of the great losses to our cultural and architectural history was this theatre, the Metro. It also opened in 1939, just across the road from West's. This theatre was something special. It was the only Metro theatre in Australia designed in America by Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer. Even all the interior fittings were shipped in from the United States. At its height, it could seat 1,200 people and it was fully air-conditioned. When it was revamped into a multi-screen complex in 1975, those fittings were auctioned off and many of them are still in homes around Adelaide. The My Fair Lady Theatre is also remarkable because it was built specifically in the mid-1960s to show the film of the same name, starring Rex Harrison and Audrey Hepburn. My Fair Lady was shot in 70mm format. That meant most screens were too small for it, and our theatre was just one of many built around the world to show it. The movie lives on. The theatre closed in 1988. In Rundle Mall, the facade of the Lotteries Commission building east of Gawler Place is all that remains of 3 of Adelaide's lost movie theatres. The Grand opened here in 1916. It was reborn as the Mayfair in the 1930s, and this is the foyer and the ticket office of that theatre. Then, in 1953, it became the Sturt, and it ran until 1976. The Rex Theatre was up near the corner of Twin Street, and here it is in the late 1930s, with the John Martins and Edmonds buildings down on the right. Here's how the mall looks today from pretty much the same spot. Again, there were 3 theatres on this site. The first was the Arcadia Picture Palace, but that didn't last long. The Pavilion also failed, and that became a mini indoor golf course. And finally, the Rex opened in 1933. The amazing feature of this theatre was its roof. On warm summer nights, it could be pulled back to allow a beautiful cool breeze in. Sadly, it was knocked down when Cox Foy's department store decided to expand. The Plaza Theatre was down the lane from the Regent in Rundle Street, and it was the first to be specifically built for CinemaScope movies. It had a name change to the Paris in the mid-1960s, but only lasted a few years before it was demolished. As was what many regard as our most amazing lost theatre, the original Regent. It opened on June the 29th, 1928, and Adelaide had never seen anything like it. The theatre featured tapestries and paintings and other works of art. From the stairway in the foyer to the theatre itself, it was all style. When the Regent's Wurlitzer organ arrived in 5 horse-drawn carts, the entire city came to a stop. After the theatre's demolition, that organ found a home in St Peter's College. But luckily, we have the odd survivor from this era, like the marvellous Capri on Goodwood Road. Thanks to the amazing volunteers who run this theatre, we can still get a bit of a feel of what going to the movies used to be like. It deserves a story all of its own, and I reckon we'll save that for another day. And for the story of one town's fight to keep its local movie heritage alive, look for this month's issue of SA Life magazine.
After the break, Victor Harbour's Big Duck is now a whole lot bigger.